Welcome to You the Boss Podcast, episode 80. I'm your host, Pam, and today we're going to be talking about failure and how it's feedback instead of an excuse. I want to share with you guys that I've failed. I have failed at figuring it all out. At the ripe age of 35, I don't have it all figured out. And when I realized this failure, it felt like it kind of set me free. It started to feel more of like it doesn't mean stop, it just means adjust. In this episode, we're going to learn how to take power back from the setbacks, and instead of letting them define you and slow you down. In this episode, we're not going to ignore how heavy it feels to have a failure. In fact, we're going to talk about why it feels heavy. Failure is emotionally charged. Whenever we go after something, whenever we start something new, we tie it to our identity. Most people don't fear failing. They fear what failing says about them, how it looks to other people when you fail, what the outside of failing looks like to someone else, and how it makes us look. So let's reframe. Failure is data. It's not a verdict. If something didn't work, it doesn't mean that you don't work. Also, you're not starting over or from scratch. You are actually now starting from a position of experience because you've already started this before. And it's information that you didn't have the first time that you started. When we take failure as feedback, it creates the feedback loop. So that loop is where the growth happens. It means in every attempt, you're creating feedback. You're seeing what worked, what didn't, what needs adjustment. And the only true failure is when you don't get a lesson from it. The only true failure is actually when you're not trying at all. Progress is built through iterations, through movement. The reason we're turning failures into excuses is because of a few things. There's a couple of common thought patterns, and they start sounding like, maybe this isn't for me. I always mess these things up. There's a glitch in the matrix. What's the point of trying this again? That's just not how it works for me. Excuses protect the ego, but they also block growth. Growth requires honesty. It requires not you attacking yourself, not you talking down to yourself when the outcome wasn't what you expected. When you're in this moment of failure, sometimes the lesson is just, maybe it's time to reassess this entire thing. Sometimes the feedback from failure is, maybe you took on too much too fast. It's not always necessarily this big, gigantic thing that you're figuring out. As always, I put together some tools and how you can use them to use failure as fuel. These things are practical. They're not, again, these dramatic things that they're going to be life-changing for you. They're just a couple of things I've put together based on some research that I've done, and also just from myself, so that we're able to reframe the mindset behind failure and the mindset in getting that feedback. So number one, the neutral review. Just asking what happened. You're separating facts from feelings. I say this a lot to friends when they come to me and they express something that may be a disagreement or something that they're experiencing, and I try to separate those facts from feelings. So separate those facts from feelings. Actually list out what happened. A lot of the times we get wrapped up in the feeling of things, of how things made us quote unquote feel, that we forget the facts and how those facts affect things. Number two, the adjustment question. Instead of why did I fail, ask yourself, what needs to change next time? What could be different next time? Another way that I like to phrase this is, in a perfect situation, how could this have been better? In a perfect situation, what would I like to see happen? Number 3, shorten the recovery time. I'm not saying rush the lesson. I'm saying rush the comeback. The faster you reflect, the faster you move forward. Reflection is key, and it's important because it helps you see things from a more neutral view instead of sitting in it for too long, recovering for too long. Number 4, detach your worth from the outcome. This should probably be number 1 on this list, because just because you fail at something, it doesn't mean that your value decreases. It doesn't mean that, how much you're worth gets lower. Confidence comes from staying in the game. It's not from how many failures you didn't have. And it's important to note that because, again, so often we are so in this, we're so attached to the outcome that we start to feel like we lose value when we fail. There's some examples that I want to share with you about what feedback looks like in real life. Missed goals, it's not that they're the wrong strategy. It's not that they're the wrong dream. It's that there's the wrong strategy. Burnout is not necessarily that you need to do less. It's just having boundaries. Rejection is not always a no, but more of a redirection or maybe even a skill gap. Inconsistency, when you lack discipline, it doesn't help you set up different systems for yourself. When you have a boss mindset, you ask yourself things like, how do I move smarter? A victim mentality says, why does this always happen to me? You don't need constant motivation. You just need to interpret things a little bit differently. Boss energy asks, what can I do better? A victim mindset says, why does this never work for me? This week, I want to give you something to reflect on. I want you to ask yourself, what's one setback that I've been calling a failure that might actually be feedback? What is the situation trying to teach me? Sometimes it's not teaching you anything new. It's just letting you see something that you already know from a different perspective. Let this episode serve as a reminder. You're not behind. You're being trained. Every successful person has failed more times than most people have tried. That's what makes them successful. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the process. If it didn't work, good. Now you know more than you did before. Adjust and keep moving. Before we end this episode, I want to encourage you to leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Come back again next week for another episode of You the Boss podcast.
Being outside is good for us. It's that simple. And trails make it easy for us to walk, bike, and be active outside in our own backyards. On the trail, we see people moving, connecting with their communities, making the places where they live great. For 40 years, Rails to Trails Conservancy has led the way, creating trails across the country, making it safer and easier for everyone to get outside. They want you to get involved. Find your trail and start your journey today at railstotrails.org/iHeart and follow at Rails to Trails on social.